Welcome back to the channel, guys. Not sure where this is being entered into this video for today, but we are in Leonard's 2022 Ram TRX. This customer is from Pennsylvania, and the truck did come to us already previously modified. It was a compound boost setup. So I believe a shop up north, I think it's Ripatoon, I think's the name of it. They put twin turbos on it with the factory supercharger on it. The customer had the truck, I don't know for how long, but just wanted more power out of it and wanted to send it down to us just to see what we could do with it, what our thoughts were of it. So we baselined it when we first got it. We'll show you the dyno graphs here. I think it baselined like 615 rear wheel horsepower. Which is a little bit on the low side, but again, I don't remember what kind of fuel he told them he was going to be running and stuff like that. But the main reason for the change that we decided to go with, instead of keeping the turbos on it and turning the boost up and just making as much horsepower as we could, we decided to remove the turbos from it and just go with a kind of a max effort stock supercharger setup on this thing. So again, guys, before it was a compound boost. It had two turbos on it with the factory supercharger on it, and again, roughly 615 I think rear wheel horsepower, and we'll show the baselines on here. And then we go to what essentially is like our 1,000 horsepower package with a ported factory supercharger on it with all the supporting mods needed, like fuel system, you know, I think we put headers, sounds good, on this thing to make it sound good and just be super efficient. And his main reasons for getting rid of the turbo kit, because like I said, we could turn the turbos, take the turbos, turn the boost up, go over the kit, kind of fix it a little bit, make it a little bit better, and still get good horsepower numbers out of it. But he didn't like the fact that he'd have to get underneath the car and grease the turbos. Most turbo kits, at least the ones that we run, you know, Precision turbos, and there's other turbo manufacturers out there, Garrett and so forth, that have oil that run through the turbos to keep the life of the turbos, you know, greased up in bearings from them coming apart, right? Well, there's a little bit cheaper manufacturers out there that make turbos that you have to grease them yourself. So instead of putting oil in them, that, you know, from the engine itself, goes from the engine to the turbo, runs back to the pan. This kit that we got when the truck came, they're called oilless turbos. So the customer did not want to go underneath this truck and grease it every 500 or 1,000 miles. I know they say you can do it like every 3,000 miles. I've never used those turbos, so I don't want to say how long they can or cannot last without adding grease to them. But he was told that he needed to grease them from where he lived and what he did with the truck every 500 or 1,000 miles. And after talking to him, he just didn't want to deal with it. He'd rather just put gas in his truck and go and enjoy it. So again, we decided to go with our 1,000 horsepower package, which again, all the supporting mods with the factory supercharger. And we picked up quite a bit. This thing, if I remember, I think we made like 770, I think, on pump gas. So that's already 150 rear horsepower gain from what it was. And then we made, I think, 850 on E85. Well over 200 rear wheel horsepower gains, and now he doesn't have to grease the turbos. He just has to put gas in it and go. And he has the best of both worlds. He can put 93 in it. We have a file for him for that. Or when he's, you know, going to go race it with his buddies and have, you know, wants the real power, puts the E85 in it and go. So I drove the truck earlier today. Just went to lunch in it. I'm gonna go. We're gonna make a pass here in a second. I'm gonna try to data log it and check all the shift points and see how she does. I know it's gonna spin pretty good, but again, before we ship these vehicles all the way back across the country, we always test them as much as possible. So I'm gonna put it in sport mode, and I think I'm just gonna leave it in drive, and we'll test it and see what she does. So yeah, I wish we would have dragged it before to give you like some 0 to 60s and stuff like that, but with the horsepower numbers it made, and again, we can overlay the graphs for y'all too to show y'all, you know, where it picked up, not just, you know, down low or up top, you know, across the board where we saw gains over the compound boost setup versus just the supercharger by itself. And after this pull, I'll explain more about, you know, turbos versus blowers and different horsepower levels and what I would do if I wanted turbos on my truck like this thing all the way back. All right, sport mode. Spun really bad. Still hauled ass though. I mean, 60 foot, a 181. That's not bad for the street. I think it's a 11 second. What did it run? Like 1150, I believe. Not bad spinning, pretty good. Yeah, 1150. I'll pull over and look at it and I'll check the data too. But again, to go from 615 rear wheel horsepower to now 850, huge difference. This thing was probably a high 12-second truck, and now we are solid mid 11s, if not low 11s, if it hooks up a little bit better. And again, still a factory supercharger. Some of our competitors out there, they put Whipples on them, which we do as well, but they put Whipples in all these other mods and still achieve a number like we did with this setup. And this blower is still efficient with what we're doing. Same with air temps and everything else, and which I'm about to look at and show you guys. But let's see how she did. All right, 0 to 60, that's how I can tell it spun. 3.35 seconds, 60 foot, 1.81. 8th mile time, 7:42 at 96 miles per hour. Quarter mile, 11:54 at 1:17. Very impressive for a big, heavy truck. This thing is fun. Again, stoplight to stoplight, this thing is a blast. On 93 octane, we have to have a different file for it because it's making 17 pounds. We got to pull a lot of timing out of it for pump gas. But for E85, 17 pounds, and the timing we have in it, to be honest, we can still go a little bit more, but we like to keep them conservative to keep these things in one piece. And again, 850 rear wheel horsepower in a heavy truck. It's under a big load. Most customers don't go crazy high speeds. They don't do 6130s in trucks. You know, that's a car thing. Mainly most customers are stoplight to stoplight, so it's like kind of like an 8th mile time. So when you see it go that, what did I say, 742 at 96 miles an hour. Most customers in these vehicles are not going to go much faster than that. So just to accelerate that fast in the 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds, you know, super impressive for a heavy ass truck like this. But yes, the tune-up looks good. Everything looks actually phenomenal. But what I was talking before that pull, I want to explain turbo setup. And if a customer came to us and said, hey, I do want an all-out turbo system, what would you do and how would we do it? So the compound boost, the way this car was before, the truck it was before, had the 2 turbos, which builds boost from the exhaust system, but still has to go through the factory supercharger. Now, that compound boost setup, like I said, we could still probably have made 850 with it, the way it was. But once you start making, let's say 850, 1,000 plus rear wheel horsepower, that supercharger becomes the restriction, because you have that compressed air now having to go through the supercharger to get to the intake runners, and that supercharger can only flow so much. So once you start making, I'm gonna say 1,000 plus rear wheel horsepower for a twin turbo TRX, we change the intake manifold. So we get rid of the supercharger, and then it's just twin turbos only. We put a billet or a sheet metal intake on it, and then depending on the intercooler and how we set that up, that's the route I would go. But again, for this customer, he wanted something that was just reliable, didn't want to have to grease his turbos, and really he wanted 750 rear wheel horsepower was going to be fine for him, which we hit over that on pump gas, and then on E85, 850, so it's just an extra bonus. And I think he's going to be super impressed when he gets this thing back from where it was to where it's at now. So again, Leonard, I say Paparo for his last name. Justin said it's something else, so sorry if I mispronounced it. But Leonard, truck is done. We're gonna get this thing cleaned up and headed back your way, and I think you're gonna enjoy it. Those of you watching, guys, you Ram TRX guys out there, or Hellcat customers out there, hit us up. We have several packages available, anything from adding 50 horsepower to it to 1,200 to 1,500 horsepower. So give us a call and we'll get you taken care of.